Moreover, after completing all of the prerequisite courses as one of the top students, I was defeated by this new first come first serve policy as the course registration website froze after hundreds of students registering at the same time. The door for the nursing program at Montgomery County Community College seemed to be closed to me. Afterward, through God's vision, I was able to turn my head to the accelerated nursing programs. Although my previous undergraduate GPA was far below the requirement, by the grace of God, I was accepted to Drexel University Accelerated BSN program. When I attended orientation, I felt like I did not belong in this world. Out of 200 total students in our cohort, only 5% were male students. So everyone I was talking with and sitting around me at lunch was female students. It was a totally opposite feeling from when I was in engineering school. Additionally, most male students in my classes were in the 50s or 40s who already had their children in college or high school. So it seemed almost impossible for me to be friends with other male students. Plus, I was desperate to find a study group because the statistics every year were telling me that only 50% of this cohort could survive in this program. Since I was never used to this female-dominant environment, I stopped expecting to even make a single friend or find a study group in this program. And therefore, I sincerely prayed to God that I wanted Jesus to be my friend and a study mate in the library until the end of this program. Then God responded to my prayer in a weird way. On the second day of school, there was a girl about my age sitting next to me in class, and she shared the same concern with me, that she wanted friends to study together as badly as I wanted. And then two other classmates joined our conversation during the break, so we formed the study group as four, which was a great achievement for me and great satisfaction. Soon after, while I talked with them during lunch, I realized that all three of them were Christians who enjoyed talking about the Bible and God. Therefore, I could feel the presence of God whenever I hung out or studying with them in classes or the library. Even during the pandemic, we were studying together through Zoom sometimes, sharing questions and studying materials through group chat daily and praying for each other whenever we asked for prayer. After I learned that God prepared his people already to be my friends and study group, I also learned that God owned this accelerated nursing program by the midterm week of that same quarter. In that week, my car needed repair, so I had to take the train to the center city for my classes. On an actual day for the midterm, it was unusual that the train was not showing up at the scheduled time. And every 10 minutes, there was an announcement that the train would be late for about 15 minutes. I was getting nervous every time I hear the same announcement over and over. In case I was late for the midterm exam, I checked with the course syllabus, and it clearly mentioned that anyone who would be late to the exam for 15 minutes or longer would automatically receive 0 for the exam, and thus fail the course eventually. I pray to God to please save me and get me to the train as soon as possible. The train finally showed up, but it was already past the time the midterm exam even started. I had sent an email to the professor an hour ago, but I had not received any response. The fact that someone I knew had already received 0 on a quiz for being late to another class put me into a panic state. I could only think about failing and dropping out of this program. While crying out to God for help, God helped me remember Abraham, who was going to sacrifice his son Isaac. I realized that everything, including this accelerated program that I loved so much and all in, belonged to God. I cried out to God why at this time he wanted to take my Isaac away. I soon surrendered to God and started praying that God would take care of my future, even if I failed this course or even dropped out of this program. By the time I arrived in the classroom, I was already 1.5 hours late. But as soon as I entered the room, the professor ran toward me as if she had been waiting all along for me and led me to a seat that had everything I needed for this midterm. As soon as the computer was on, she was telling me the password to start the exam, but I could not type in the password correctly because my hand was too sweaty and trembling nonstop. She asked me to deep breathe and said, "Moses, no one is failing you today, and I'm going to give you enough time to finish this exam, and you will complete it just like others." I almost cried at that moment because what she told me to calm me down sounded like a gentle whisper from God. My hands stopped trembling and I could complete this exam in peace. And after this event, I was able to study and take any exam in peace until I graduated because I knew that this accelerated program belonged to God. By the end of this nursing program, I could also learn about God who knew about tomorrow and my future. As most of you know, I could not pass the exit exam twice, and there was a long period to wait for the third exit exam. One day, I was tired of this indefinite waiting time for this exam, and I wanted to take a break from the indefinite amount of practice problems I had done for this exit exam and NCLEX. I wanted anything that could relax me, like wine. Having a bad history of alcoholism, I asked God if I could get permission to drink wine, assuring him that I had not drunk any alcohol for about a year, and thus I could control. And if God allowed me to drink wine, I asked him to protect me from anything, such as being drunk or getting sick after drinking wine. After I finished praying, I was at the door to leave the apartment, but Joseph stopped me and asked where I was going. I could not tell him that I was going to a liquor store, so I told him I was going out for a walk. Then Joseph told me he wanted to join me. This was unexpected because I'd never seen him joining me for a walk outside. The liquor store was closing in about 20 minutes, so I tried my best to change his mind. But he was too persistent, explaining he had to escape his sedentary lifestyle to stay healthy until his wedding. At that moment, I could feel the gentle whisper from God that He wanted me to stay sober that night. So I ended up only walking with Joseph in the park for about an hour and studying more practice problems for the exit exam. But the next morning, I could figure out why God wanted me to stay sober and keep studying last night. Something woke me up between 6 and 7 a.m. that morning, and then I soon realized my third exit exam was scheduled on the next day. I only had one day to be ready for this third exit exam after hearing the update. At that moment, I thank God for preventing me from drinking last night and waking me up early morning. My confidence in this third exit exam was so great because I could sense that God really decided to make me graduate this time. Finally, I was able to pass the exit exam. I thank God for taking care of me even on the very last day of this accelerated program. And I learned why Jesus taught us not to worry about tomorrow. Looking back, I still cannot believe how I was able to graduate this tough accelerated program of BSN. This great accomplishment of completing this program could only be explained by the grace of God. And all I did was remaining in Jesus in times of suffering and having faith in Him. And there have been many other great experiences I had through God that I could not share here in this testimony because it will be like 20 pages of testimony. So, um, so by God's grace, God sent me the most suitable friends, clinical group members and instructors, classmates, and professors. By God's grace, I was able to receive continuous prayer support from my church family of Philadelphia UBF. By God's grace, I could learn how to remain in Jesus peacefully in difficult times, bear fruits, and have spiritual growth throughout this tough nursing program. I thank God so much for being with me from the beginning to the end of this program. And I thank all brothers and sisters of Philly UBF for always praying for me to survive this program. Please pray for me to grow as Jesus' disciple by the end of this winter, so I can be the light at my work and become a shepherd nurse who can provide not only patient care, but also spiritual care to many sick people through Jesus. One word: God's grace.